Welcome to Agents Growth Academy. I hope you are ready to grow big or go home. I have got a fantastically good-looking guest today named Michael Zalle from Yellowbird, who's going to talk to you about Lefty's life lessons. We're going to get into that in just a second. Before I read his bio, though, one thing that I know about Michael and his company Yellowbird is that it is something that a lot of people can outsource to for services that they need. Now, that's all I'll say, but I'll tell you that there's two things in our agency that we already outsource different things for, and that's Marble Box, which is outsourcing all kinds of different lower level, what I like to call lower level tasks that are not adding value to the client relationship. So it's processing, it's doing downloads and processing agency built transactions, things like that. Since we have implemented Marblebox, and we're about to add our second Marblebox quote unquote employee who is doing all these tasks, and they're literally saving us hundreds of hours a month. And that's soon probably going to be like thousands if that's even possible. But highly recommend checking out Marblebox at marblebox.com. And secondly, of course, ePay Policy. I had my mug earlier today. I had some coffee, my ePay Policy mug. They are our go-to company for processing payments in our company. It's something we outsource because it's just something that we don't want to have to send somebody an invoice and then wait for the mail to come back 7-10 days later. Like, we want to get the money coming in now. So they process that through credit card and ACH, allowing clients to just click on a link and pay it online, just like we do with other things in the 21st century. So that's all I'll say about them. There's a link where you're watching this or listening to this that you can get more information about ePay Policy. But let's talk about Michael Zalle. Michael is the founder and CEO of Yellowbird. He's responsible for creating, building, and launching new concepts and companies, resulting in multiple successful exits over a 25-year tech career. Doesn't look that old. He has built a career through a unique balance of commercializing novel business models, operationalizing, I didn't even know that was a word, innovative technologies and platforms, rapidly scaling operations, and building market-shaping ecosystems. His companies and purpose are ever focused on serving others, whether it be satellite systems for first responders, environmental products for flood and spill response, or time and economic support for difference-making organizations. Michael believes in doing well while doing good. I bet that's going to come up in our conversation. His college journey began at San Francisco State University and completed at Pepperdine University while working full-time and traveling at age 19. I want to talk about that. As a lifelong member and mentor for the Amputee Coalition of America, he enjoys the time he's able to invest in mentoring kids with physical challenges. He's been married 22 years with 2 children, and he spends most of his free time at lacrosse or soccer games, chasing balls, applying Band-Aids, and handing out snacks. He enjoys traveling and engages in a variety of sports, including golf and tennis. He ranks himself an incredibly average golfer and perhaps even worse, tennis player. Michael Zalle, welcome to Agents Growth Academy, my friend. What's going on?
Hey man, thank you so much. And I gotta say that's a little humbling and embarrassing to listen to as I'm sitting here listening to you
Hey, I just
provide.
read the bio, man. I just read it.
And I have to admit that I haven't applied a Band-Aid or run after a cross ball in quite some time. I'm gonna have to update that a little bit. My kids are like, we're older than that now, Dad.
Well, we were just
Thank you.
talking off mic about what your son's doing, and I can see if you're watching this, you can actually see some of his own photography. But what's unique about his photography that you and I were talking about?
It's he has been doing film photography for the last 2 years. He was exposed to it by his high school that actually has a film department in a dark room like we may have. I don't know how
Yeah.
old your listenership is, but I
Yeah.
had a dark room when I in my public
Oh, yeah.
school in the day,
Yep.
and he's been able to really grasp onto that, and he loves it. And he likes, unlike most kids of today's world, He likes the fact that you have to stop, pay attention, and actually take the shot because it's so
Oh,
limited. It's not like digital where you can just snap away and hope you get one that's good.
yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, absolutely. And I know what that's like. Even as a like I do landscape photography, and you would think that with the earth not moving very much in front of you, generally, you would just be able to take that one shot. And yet, still, I walk away from like a 20-minute session with 300 photographs, and I'm like, why did I need to take that many? But that is so I applaud your son because that is a craft to
Yes.
nail that one shot and then spend the time developing to see if it even came out.
It reminds me of when we were young, and I won't speak for you. I must be older than you, I'm sure, but I will say that it used to be you turn in your film, and you'd be lucky when you got back that folder of pictures if there was like two shots out of the whole roll that were actually usable,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
he contends with that even today.
Yeah.
It's he's living in 1985. It feels
That's
like
awesome.
in his photography journey.
That's awesome, man. That's fantastic. All right. So I'm curious. You said that if this interview were a masterclass, it would be called Lefty's Life Lessons. Tell us what that means.
So I was born with, frankly, a small. I used to call it my little hand, a small right. And here I'll hang up.
There you
And
go.
and being born like I was and living like I am, um, doesn't let you hide from your insecurities
Yeah.
or shy away from the things that happen in life.
Yeah.
Lefty being it's my right hand, so I only have a left hand. It's a kitschy name, but it took me a long time to get to the point in my life where I've realized that it has made me who I am, both as a human being, as a father, as a friend, and as a business owner. And so I think that the life lessons, and we all have them. Mine
Yeah.
happens to have a kitschy name because you can easily call me Lefty. That's what I am. But that's my story.
That's awesome. So tell me about some of those life lessons and kind of, weave into some of your journey into where you are now with Yellowbird. How have the challenges of not having what most of your peers have, which is
Mm-hmm.
two full-size operational hands, how has that
Mm-hmm.
shaped you? What kind of life lessons?
Well, first and foremost, you mentioned that I volunteer at the Amputee Coalition, and I try to make myself available for parents of children that were born like me.
Yeah.
Candidly, I'm not that able to speak about loss because I never had
Yeah.
another hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, people who have gone through the trauma of
Yeah.
losing a limb, I can help with navigating. I can help with, here's how I tie my shoe, or
Yeah.
here's how I play golf one handed, or
Yeah.
I can help show people that you can do just about anything that two handed people can do one handed.
Yeah.
But I can't speak to that. But what I can speak to is the adaptability, which essentially has made me a decent entrepreneur because entrepreneurism, frankly, is based on two fundamentals, and it's what my life is based on, which is figuring out how to get from point A to point Z.
Yeah.
In my world, I didn't have anybody with one hand to show me how to tie my shoe. I just had to kind of figure out how to flip the shoestring over and weave it through, and I
Yeah.
use my body for things, and it's not always the prettiest look, but it gets done right, and
Yeah.
that's entrepreneurism. And I
Yeah.
mean, there, no matter what LinkedIn tells you, it
Yeah.
is ugly and it is hard and it is
Yes.
bumps and bruises and failures, and
Yes.
at the end you got there, hopefully, because you
Yeah.
kept going. And so that's what Lefty's Life Lessons is all about. I like to use that in things that I write and things that I talk about, and that's frankly, the challenges of being a kid born like me are much
Yeah.
different than the challenges of being an adult running a business because it formed me into who I am just as everybody has their experiences that form them into who they are. Like
Yeah.
I just happen to have one on the outside that people, it's easy for me to talk about because it's
Sure.
obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. You were talking about like going into your kid's school at the beginning of the year when we were talking off mic, and like you got to
Yeah.
a point where it's just, you know what, let's just go into school and like kind of get it out of the way. Hey kids, like let's if you have any questions, let me know. Right.
Well, it was my biggest fear, candidly, and I never spoke to my wife about it, and
Yeah.
didn't tell my parents about it because by the time I was married and starting a family, everybody saw me as this confident, successful business guy, tech guy.
Yeah.
But my biggest fear was that my kids were going to be born like me because
Yeah.
it was something that was a fluke in utero thing that happened with me. It was nothing my mom did, no environmental. It was just happened to be a freak thing. But they
Yeah.
didn't really know how it happened. So therefore, they didn't
You didn't
really
know.
know if it could
Yeah.
happen again.
Yeah.
So once my kids were born and they're both, normal bodied and able, and
Yeah.
everybody has their challenges and various mental, emotional, psychological, experiential disabilities, but their physical outward bodies are perfectly fine. But the next step that I had to overcome was, how do I take my kindergartner into class, and how is she or he going to be treated
Yeah.
by peers having a dad with one arm? And
Yeah.
so I had two choices. I didn't make, I guess I subconsciously made the choice, but I'm like, okay, well, let's go do this.
Yeah.
So every year I was show and tell. First day of school, you walk
Yeah.
in, you take a knee, and you're like, okay, everybody, I was born this way. This is how, I'm a man of faith. So this is how God made me,
Yeah.
and this is who I am.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to touch it? And these little ones would run up and grab my hand, which was hilarious, And the moms would look at me in shock, like, "Oh my God, my kid just went and practically tackled your little hand." Um, and honestly, 5-10 minutes later, they were all playing with their blocks and so forth and
Yeah.
doing their thing and could care
Yeah.
less. And it made me realize that I'm not really as important as I think I am. People don't really think about me as much as I think about myself, and so
But I think that's a life lesson in itself, is that, for you not having that hand, like you said, it hasn't been something you had to, overcome like a trauma. It's become part of your normal life because it's your life. And in the same way with those kids, it became normal for them in the span of just a few minutes because you normalized it and you talked about it in a way that was, you know, not like you're not trying to freak them out or,
right.
just, hey, this is me. This is, you're very matter of fact about it. And
Yeah. Well, it's
yeah,
interesting. I'm going to share with you something that you and I did not talk about in our pre-interview because
yeah,
it's still in the back of my mind, and this is going to fully relate to everybody who either runs an agency, runs a small business, or has had setbacks in their life.
yeah,
About 3 minutes before we got on this phone call, I got a phone call from, and I'm not going to out the person, but I got a phone call from a venture capitalist. We are in final diligence on them putting a sizable check into us, and it's actually an insurance carrier. I
yeah.
will say that, and they basically said,
Congratulations, by the way.
"Well, don't congratulate me yet."
Okay, I won't say it too early. Yeah,
So now I have another insurance carrier who's already put money into us, and they're a wonderful group, and I'm very excited to be with them. And they are a customer of ours. But this other organization had they couldn't get somebody internally to commit to using our service essentially.
ah,
Now I met all the diligence requirements. We growing like crazy, doing exceptionally well. Every one of their competitors uses us,
yeah,
which is ironic. But I
yeah,
got that phone call 3 minutes before getting into this podcast. And as I'm sitting here telling this story, I'm thinking to myself, one, I'm really enjoying this conversation. And two, if I didn't figure out in my life how to get over things quickly that were upsetting, that was like, okay, I could have wallowed in that. I could have been really ticked off. You would have felt it. And believe me, I'm not over it. It's been, what, 5 minutes. But the whole experience of rejection, the whole experience, whether you're selling a client who chooses somebody else, whether you're raising capital to fund your business for growth, whether you are born with one hand and people tease you and you get your feelings hurt, whatever that moment is, the ability to build up that muscle to say, damn, that sucked. And I'm
Yeah.
moving forward. Like, and just the speed that you can do that. I was just thinking about it as we're having this conversation because I mean, that was a 7-figure check that went away
Wow.
10 minutes ago.
Wow.
And yeah, it's upsetting. There's
Yeah.
plenty more.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we do have a lot of people very interested in funding
Yeah.
our round, which is wonderful. But I will
Wow.
tell you that just overall, this is, I think it all plays back to this Lefty's Life Lessons piece, which
Yeah.
is, resilience.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what it's all based on is resilience.
Good Lord, man. I had no idea that anything like that happened. I mean, I never, like, you and I were joking. We joked off air, folks, that like I should have hit record 2 minutes before we actually did because we were actually having so much fun getting to know each other off mic. I had no idea you'd just been through that. Um,
Yeah.
that's such a good lesson. And thank you for sharing that. Thanks for being vulnerable with that. It, there was one of our top producers in our agency yesterday lost an account to what seems to be another agent misrepresenting to a carrier
Mhm.
what the client actually has versus what they're going to find out pretty soon enough that they have. So I'm and we have a rule in our agency, and he knows this. Yeah, he and I have known each other since we were 3 years old. But
Wow.
I I walked next door this morning because he told me about it last night, and he was fuming. I mean, he stomped out of the office. I
Right.
walked in this morning and I said,
Right.
How's your 24 hours going? And he knew what I meant because we have a rule in our agency that you can celebrate your victories for 24 hours and you can wallow in your defeats for 24 hours. But after that, you get back on the horse no matter
Love,
what. Right.
love that.
But
I'm going to use that, by the way. I'm going to take that. Thank
well,
you.
you can thank my father because he's the one that taught it to me.
Okay.
But you shave that down to like 3 to 5 minutes of wallowing in your defeat.
No, I'm not going to I'm not going to give myself that much credit.
You can go
It's
cry in your beer after we get
my,
off
my,
this call.
my moment of irritation is not completely over, but but the ability to
Yeah.
actually just take a hit and say, all right, well, that's life. Keep on moving forward.
Yeah.
I'll wallow in it a little longer. No
Yeah.
more than 24 hours because a good friend Jim just told me to. But
I love it, man. I love it. I'm curious, and I want to know a little bit more about Yellowbird because I did some research ahead of time, and you guys, I think David Carruthers described you guys as the Uber of risk management,
Mhm.
and it seems like in keeping with the theme that we're talking about with your life lessons and really challenges that people experience and how to respond to those challenges. There are a
Yes.
lot of people out there who struggle to implement things in their companies to reduce the risk of loss and help them in a lot of different ways that they're trying to figure out, gosh, I'm going to have to go interview all these people and figure out. I'm essentially telling you what your company does, but perhaps you could do a better job of what I'm doing to explain to us about
So
Yellowbird.
yeah, so Yellowbird essentially is a matching platform for project work.
Oh, a dating
And
app.
yeah, essentially it is. It is a dating app. It's funny because I used to say that early on is so I had two pieces that I would tell, two anecdotal stories. And the first is
Yeah.
there's a Native American I don't know where it came from, so I'm going to be misquoting. So nobody write Jim. I'm not going to give you my information, but don't write Jim on this. The saying is that when an elder passes away or when an elder dies, it's like burning a library. And the original concept of Yellowbird was how can we take people who have been in the loss control, risk, safety, and EHS space, who
Yeah.
have earned their stripes, and now it's time for them to retire. Most
Yeah.
retiring people say, I'm going to consult. That's what we all say. I'm going to
Right.
consult. I'm going to
Right.
stay in the game. But you have to sell yourself. You got to have your own insurance. You have to market. You have to, as you were talking about one of your sponsors with the cash flow piece, you've got to collect on the
Yep.
bills that you send out and all those things. It's very painful.
Yeah.
And so my original concept was, how do I make consulting individuals available in the loss control and risk and safety space?
Okay.
That was the first piece of the Yellowbird story. The second
Yeah.
piece of the Yellowbird story is that what I've come to realize is that in the insurance world specifically, and on the brokerage and agency world specifically, the goal isn't just to close the business, even though that is the number one goal, because we all want to earn the commission, we all want to
Yeah.
earn the business, we all want to take care of our client. But the 9 months after you have earned that business is usually the dead man zone, where you want to communicate with your client, but how many times do you call your client and you talk to them about their kid's sporting event,
Yeah.
or how are things going with your wife? You've marked down their birthday and you've marked down their anniversary, and
Right.
and that's all nice to do. But how often do you call and say, hey, what challenges are you having in your business?
Yeah.
And what things that affect the health and safety of your team, or what keeps you up at night on the health and safety of your team. And a lot of the times it has to do with, well, we had somebody have a close call with a forklift, and I could probably use a forklift trainer.
Yeah.
Well, going to Yale, where we have forklift trainers. Or
Yeah.
OSHA sent over a letter, and I'm not really sure what to do with this OSHA letter, right? It's like, well, maybe we do a mock OSHA walkthrough for you.
Yeah.
So basically, if you look at us from a conceptual perspective, we are the largest consulting company with specialists that you've never heard of.
Oh, wow.
Essentially, Yellowbird is available for our agent partners, and frankly, even the carriers, because we're doing loss control surveys for many large carriers.
Sure.
And to name drop a couple, the QBEs and the Amtrusts and the
Yep.
Chubbs of the world. I mean, we
Yeah.
do a lot of that kind of stuff for these folks, and it goes very, very smoothly because we can get the right person with the right skills on demand in hours. I'm not talking weeks
What?
or yeah, literally, you could call me today and say, I want somebody who has an agriculture background who can go through and do a lockout tagout assessment, so safety around heavy equipment, and I need them to be matched to go out to Indiana. um, do you have anybody? And we could match that person within hours, often within minutes, because of our technology,
Wow.
and they could be on site within days.
Wow.
And so we're having people who run, and I won't out anybody, but you've mentioned some names on this call who use us extensively, but who do assisted living facilities, and they wanted to have somebody do a mock walkthrough at assisted living, or an auto dealership, and they want them to walk through and review the safety practices of the shop,
Yeah.
with the lifts and the hazardous materials and all these other things. So there's all these value propositions that we would love to offer, but what we hate to do is over offer and under deliver.
Yeah.
You
Sure.
over
Right.
promise and under deliver, and so, or have your client call you and say, "Hey, Jim, we just had somebody, throw their back out, and I'm worried that our guys don't know how to lift properly. Do you know anybody in ergonomics?"
Yeah.
And let me Google that for you and see what I can find, which is exactly what this guy's doing.
Sure.
Well, we have ergonomic specialists that could come
Yeah.
out and do work. So that's essentially what we are. We are a dating app.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. But it's a repository of, I would presume, highly
Mhm.
qualified and hopefully vetted people
Yes.
who are working with you. And what struck me is,
Deeply
because we
vetted.
talk
Deeply.
what deeply vetted,
Deep.
yeah. Yeah. What we talk about a lot on this show is finding pain points, finding ways to give back to people before they ask for anything in return. That's the easiest way to develop relationships and get business
Yeah.
in the door without quote unquote selling. Because if you
Right.
can solve their problems for them, even if it doesn't have to do with specifically insurance or whatever you're trying to sell them,
Right.
who are they going to think of? Who are they going to use when it comes time for their insurance problems, right?
Right. Right.
And the one question you asked is like, if I could get everybody to just put that question, like write it on their hand and walk around and ask that, it's, hey, what are you struggling most with right now in your business?
Mm-hmm.
If people would just literally, like, I'm on LinkedIn all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and the people that I see having the most success with a platform like LinkedIn are constantly asking that question.
Agreed.
And if the
Absolutely.
answer is something that you all otherwise have deeply vetted solutions for, it's a win-win.
And at scale, it's even more interesting. So if you think about, we've been talking tactically, one client, one location, one need.
Yeah.
Now imagine you, and I hope you don't have to imagine, I hope you experience this every day, that you have clients that have nationwide presence, and they have needs for, or nationwide or 4-state or 3-city, whatever it happens to be. They need the same thing done at all of those locations.
Yeah.
But they don't want to send somebody on an airplane. That's going to be a $10,000 safety training. I mean, I need an OSHA 30 for each of the staff members at these 4 locations. I mean, that could be 20 grand.
Yeah.
Where maybe, it's a fraction of that using a Yellowbird professional who is going to sing off the same hymn sheet. So that's the scale piece of this. When it really gets interesting is when you say, look, I want you to execute programs for all of our sites. And by the way, we have 300 locations, and I want it to be done. And I want it to be done in the next 90 days. That should be, in the old way, a 2-year project.
Yeah.
And we can do that in 90 days.
Jeez, that's incredible. And what an unbelievable tool for independent agencies of whatever size, even mom and pop shops who are going after business that would require some of the specialties that you all have deeply vetted relationships with. Just going to plug that again because I think that,
it's funny. Yeah. Because, I do try to reinforce it because everybody and their mother has a one-man shop with a list of 75 things that they do. And you're like, okay, there's no way that you, dude, can do all of that. Yeah. And so what they do is they have a network of people that they know, but nobody vets those people. They just talk to this guy, right? So sorry, I don't know. I'm soapboxing. Soapboxing here.
No, but it's so true. I mean, and think, if you're the person, if you're the independent agent who is referring that person, whether they're your client or not, you're just trying to help them out, build that relationship, or they are your client and you want to keep them as a client, to be able to say, no, these people are actually highly vetted. They know what they're doing. And I didn't just find them on Google. I didn't just call my Uncle Larry and ask, if he knew somebody. And that allows people of whatever size agency to compete with the big boys and girls.
Oh yeah, because everybody, like, if you're competing with the Willis's or the Aons or one of these big, or I can name drop a whole bunch of the giant groups, they'll go, oh well, we have risk services. We have risk people on staff that can help you. Well, first, and there's nothing wrong with these big groups, and I'm not bashing them, but you can say, well, I've got risk services in my hand right here with Yellowbird. Like, what risk services do you need? Yeah. And then you can continue to have that discussion of saying, we've aligned ourselves with a group who has thousands of vetted risk professionals that can help you. But what are you really worried about? I mean, what risk services are you talking about? Usually it's only 1 or 2 things. It's not, they're not really worried about doing an industrial hygiene assessment in a clean room. It's like, well, okay.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. We could go on this all day. I do want to get into the rapid fire round. And I have to ask you first, is that a yellow bird on your lapel?
It is. I love our brand. You'll see our brand pop up just about everywhere.
Like, that's phenomenal.
I'm very proud of the Yellowbird brand, and it's pretty solid. It's pretty solid, and it was not mine, by the way. My at the time 3 years ago. So my 9-year-old daughter had a whole bunch of options at dinner, and when I said Yellowbird as a name of a company, and she Yellowbird, that's cool, Dad. And I'm, and there's lots of things you can do with it over time. Because again, when you have
Yeah.
professional matching algorithms, we
Yeah.
are doing far more than what you would do with a job board or something like that. We are going
Yeah.
deep. So,
That's awesome. I
yeah.
love
So
that
yeah,
your 9-year-old daughter at the time named the company.
yeah, pretty much.
Brilliant. Brilliant. You have
Go,
a lot of trust in your kids. Well, your kids are obviously all creative, talking about your son too.
yeah, they are.
All right. What's one piece of technology or software that you can't live without?
It's funny you should ask me that question. Yes, I am stalling as I process. You know, I'm going to be a cliche. It's going to be my phone, and I know everybody has to say their phone, but the reality is that I learn through my phone. I listen to podcasts. I read my messages. I communicate. I mean, it truly is my most important device, and
Yeah.
I don't think I could be as efficient and successful as whatever level of success I've achieved without my phone. So I'm a total cliche because it's got to be everybody's answer or
Oh,
close to
about
it.
half of our guests say that,
Yeah.
but I usually press them and say, "What apps do you use on your phone that help you?" Then you mentioned a couple. So
Well, no, and I'll tell you, from
yeah.
a marketing perspective, we're very ingrained with HubSpot. We love
Okay.
HubSpot here, and we use it very, very deeply and efficiently. It's our
Yeah.
CRM that we use
Yeah.
internally um, ourselves. Now, there's some really great agency CRMs out there, and I've got a good friend here in Phoenix who owns Better Agency. I don't know if you know them, but they're
I think
a
I've had him on the show.
have you good, a
Yeah.
great product.
Well, I don't know. There's a couple of people there. Are
Yeah.
you talking about Nick or are you talking about?
I'm talking about Will and Nick. Yeah, both
Yeah.
of them.
Okay. I've had Nick on the show. Yeah.
Yeah, Nick's a
Yeah.
great guy. Yeah, Will is in
He's
my
allowing me. I don't know that he thought this through, but he's allowing me to speak at the Better Agency or the Agency Success, sorry,
agency
conference coming
success
up. Yeah.
conference here in Phoenix next year, and I will be
Yeah.
attending it as well.
Oh my gosh. You
Not
don't
been
have
asked.
to come in to watch my speech.
I have not been asked to be a speaker, which I will give Nick and Will a little bit of grief over that. But I'm not technically an agent or
Yeah.
in the insurance business. But that being
Yeah.
said, so yeah, we do have the CRM, and then
Awesome.
I mean, honestly, my podcast. I have a half an hour drive to and from work every day,
Yeah.
and I learn through my ears, and
I
so
love it.
that's part of my process.
I love it. Any one particular show that's like a go-to for you?
It's an interesting question. I do like Adam Grant's "Taken for Granted," which has
Mm-hmm.
now been changed to "Think Again," I believe it's
Mm-hmm.
called. But Adam Grant's he's a great interviewer and speaker. And then I
Yeah.
actually like Armchair Expert, which is with Dax Shepard.
Okay.
And he just makes me laugh. He's the smartest actor, director, general. You'd think he was just a pretty face in front of a screen, but has really great interviews. They're solid. So,
That's
and those are
awesome.
my two favorite. And then I will tell you the third, but that's when you get to your next question, because there is a podcast that associates with the book, my favorite book. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So, what is your favorite book that you want to recommend to folks?
Wow, I cannot believe you asked that question out of the blue.
He has
I
ESP.
love, I love the book The Daily Stoic, and if
Mm,
you've
mm.
not read The Daily Stoic, it is in fact, yep, there it is, baby, there it
Boom.
is,
Yep.
boom.
Yeah.
The thing I like about it, I'm not the greatest reader in the world, and I can't spend a lot of time reading, but there are
Yeah.
one page, thoughtful.
Yeah.
They use the Stoics of the great past. By the way, Stoicism is not negativity. Everybody goes, "Oh, Stoicism." I mean, I'm the most positive person I know. And but the Stoicism is looking at life in life's terms,
Yeah.
and it's being honest with yourself. about how you look at things and how you digest information. And I try to do that. We're all biased. Everybody's biased. I don't care who you are and where
Yep.
you have a history, you have learnings, things have happened to you and around you and to others, and they affect the way you think. And I love the book, The Daily Stoic. And there is a podcast that is also the Daily Stoic podcast.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
add that to the list.
Yes. And honestly, I mean, it's kind of like the book. I mean, they're very brief, 10 minutes, I think, or less.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, never did I ever think that I would start my morning with my best friend Marcus Aurelius.
Marcus
Right?
Aurelius.
People like that. It's like,
Seriously, yes.
but it's amazing how much truth there is that transcends millennia.
Yeah,
Right? It's pretty
absolutely.
crazy. Yeah. And
Yeah,
you're right.
we do a. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off,
No,
but
no.
we like all tech companies, you would be nothing if you did not have a Slack channel for everything you do.
Right.
I created one for readings and books and quotes, and I think my team is absolutely tired of me posting today's Daily Stoic reading. It's like, okay, if we wanted to read the book, we would have just bought the book. You don't have to post every day.
They're probably as tired as my kids are of me sharing dad jokes with them every single day. And now my middle daughter sends me dad joke memes via Instagram every day. Like, Dad's thinking of you. Like,
Yeah.
not quite the same level of content from a Daily Stoic. All right. What's advice that you would give to your younger self, Michael?
That's such a difficult question. I've thought about that because I've listened to your podcast, of course, and I know the questions that you're going to ask. And I've been thinking about that a lot. And a lot of the things that I would have normally answered in this, I don't think that I would have actually wanted to tell myself. There's oh man, I'm not remembering an exact line, but Garth Brooks had a song that thank God for the prayer unanswered prayers,
Oh,
and
yes. Yeah.
the unanswered prayers, right? Because you break up with your girlfriend and you just wish that you were with her forever and everything
Yeah.
else, and then you realize that if you would have stayed with her, you wouldn't have met your wife and your love of
Yeah.
your life and all that, right? I mean, it's the unanswered
Yeah.
prayer. So part of mine was, take time. Don't be so focused. Don't be so serious. Don't try to be grown up so early, because I wanted to be grown up so badly. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I was selling computers when I was 16 years old, and I wanted to be serious and be taken seriously, and I wouldn't go to parties, and I wouldn't, be a goofball with my friends. And
Yeah.
now I look at that, I'm like, man, it served me well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I guess in retrospect, I probably should have, should have told myself that, but then I wouldn't be who I am. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess the advice would be, just appreciate where you are when you're there.
And that is sound advice. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Well, if you have listened to the show, then you know what I'm going to ask next. If you had the choice between eating a hot bowl of delicious soup or consuming some gourmet marshmallows and hot chocolate, what would you choose?
Absolutely the soup all day long.
Nice. Did you consult with your wife before this?
No, I did not. I did not. It's actually a funny question. It's an interesting question because I don't know. I would 100%, and I did jump on that pretty fast because I do love a good bowl of chowder or a good
Yeah.
soup.
Yeah.
But when I think about when I actually will have hot chocolate and cocoa or something like that with marshmallows, I'm usually in front of someplace that's beautiful with a fire, and I'm
Yeah.
cold. So now that I think about it, of the environment I'd be in, I would rather be in that environment. But from the actual taste of if you put me in a white room and all I have to do is take these two things, I'm going to take the soup because I like it better than I like the hot chocolate. But the environment of the hot chocolate, probably whenever I'm getting that, is way better than wherever I'm eating a soup.
Yeah, totally understand. What would be your go-to soup?
um, I do love a really good chowder.
Okay.
They're horrible for you, and I'd weigh 1,000 pounds if I had them all the time. But I do love a good chowder, and I'm not sure chili's technically a soup, but
I've had so many people say that recently.
but I do love a good chili. Like my wife
You
makes
like
great.
the hearty stuff. That's what I'm
I do
hearing.
like the hearty
Okay.
stuff. I do
Okay.
like the
I don't know that they have either of those, but I will find out a list. I have a list actually that I'll send you, and you can choose from. How about that? Because I'm going to send you some from our
Oh,
friends
really?
at Spoonful of Comfort. Not a sponsor,
Well, there you
but
go.
we have given it out to folks, and they absolutely love it. So
Wonderful. Thank
you
you.
got that coming your way. Yeah, my
Thank
pleasure.
you. And I will order more from them because after I get the first one, assuming I like it, I will order
Awesome.
more from them to
You
support your
will
friends.
you will love it. And hey, I want to be respectful of your time because I'm eyeing the clock here. But
Hmm.
what's one final piece of advice or actionable step that you would give to the audience based on anything we talked about today?
I'm going to be completely self-serving and say if you have anything related to a client that has health, safety, or other risk-related needs, try us. Go to yellowbird.com. Unless we find somebody for you, you don't pay a darn thing. So just give it a whirl. Go yellowbird.com is the URL. And since I am on here promoting my company, I have to. That is my piece of advice. I'm sorry, everybody.
No, man. Hey, that's one reason we brought you on. So absolutely. Michael, where can people get more of you in their life if they want to connect with you?
Well, LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me.
Yes, it
I'm
is. I noticed you have a whole lot of followers, like
I'm yeah,
17,000 plus.
yeah. I take a lot of pride in that, and I actually weed out the people who aren't genuinely interested in
Yeah.
building a community on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a very nice network of people that I'm connected with. But I try to contribute, and I try to write things that are meaningful and impactful, and learnings that I have, Lefty's life lessons, although I don't always call them that. And then, of course, I'm such a cliche, but goyellowbird.com is another place. I mean, honestly, I mean, that's where you can find just about anything you need in the EHS space, environmental
That's
health and
awesome.
safety. Yeah.
That's awesome. Michael, you stick around for me for 1 second,
Yep.
but for everybody else, I'm really glad to have you on today. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much. It's been a blast. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, until next time, grow big or go home.